I know.
Good evening. Welcome to the March 11th meeting of the Stillwater City Council. I will call this meeting to order, and I will ask for representatives of the local League of Women Voters to come join us to help us lead the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. I hear you. It's Sunshine Week
It is
in Oklahoma.
Sunshine Week.
Tell us a little bit about that.
It goes back to James Madison and the Freedom of Information Act, and Oklahoma recognizes it in March as a week to renew our pledge to have open meetings. And so in front of you, you have a pledge for this year to sign again and return to us, and then this will be sent to the website at the bottom of that. And so that others can know, I'll read what you're pledging. It says, I endorse the purpose of Oklahoma's open meeting and open records laws to ensure and facilitate the public's understanding of governmental processes and problems. Therefore, I pledge to support at every opportunity the public policy of the state of Oklahoma that the people are vested with the inherent right to know and be fully informed about their government so they can efficiently and intelligently exercise their inherent political power. Specifically, I pledge that I will comply not only with the letter of the law, but also the spirit of Oklahoma's open meeting and open records laws. And we thank you for doing this.
Thank you for being here.
Yes.
We appreciate your work.
Do you need to?
Would you like the? Okay, at this time, Captain Kyle Gibbs will introduce our Stillwater Police Department Citizens Academy class for recognition.
Okay, thank you for letting me be here. We are here tonight to congratulate and recognize Class 4 of our Stillwater Police Department Citizens Academy. Most of them are sitting right over here on this side of the room. Wave your hands if you're a member of the Academy. One right behind me. Another great class. And they took time out of their busy schedules to spend what was supposed to be the last 6 weeks, but we had an ice storm, so it turned out to be the last 5 weeks with us. And we meet one night a week, and then it all culminates with what we call Scenario Saturday, where we put them through a series of scenarios, things that we have encountered as a department here, where some of it's pretty high stress, a lot of decision making, to let them go through and have that experience. They also go to the range and spend half a day. But our goal in doing these academies is to just share with members of our community to help educate them not only about all the things that we do, but more importantly, how and why we do the things that we do, to make them better informed consumers of information, so that when they see something in the media or hear a story or about something that the police have been involved in, they ask better questions. And they kind of know what's going on and why certain information is released and not released, and why we don't talk about parts of an investigation and all those different things. But it makes them better consumers. We only have one hard, fast rule for our attendees, and that's they can ask any question they want. Now, likewise, we can answer any question that we want. But I'll tell you, once again, for our 4th class in a row, we have answered everything that's brought up, and we've had some good discussions. This was a very, very inquisitive class, and that made it really fun for the presenters and those of us who do this. So, on behalf of all of my coworkers at Stillwater PD, I just want to thank every member of Class 4 for taking time out of their schedules to spend one night a week with us and all day Saturday. I sincerely believe that forming these kind of personal, lifelong relationships and facilitating the understanding that we do about how the police strive to serve this community, it's the best thing that we do as a department. I sincerely believe that. So Class 4, thank you all very much for taking time out of your lives to spend it with us. We appreciate it very much.
Thank you.
Thanks for letting us do this.
It's a great program. We appreciate your work, Captain Gibbs, and the rest of your team. I know the other officers that volunteer time to be there to help run those classes. We appreciate everything that you all do. And I'll just add a few of us, just two of us. You guys haven't done the academy yet.
Vice Mayor Darlington.
Vice Mayor Darlington.
We're going to sign up next.
Absolutely have firsthand experience of how valuable that class is, and would appreciate all of you for dedicating that time as well, and becoming more knowledgeable about the way our police department works here in Stillwater. So thank you all. Okay, that takes us down to item 4 on the agenda, the consent docket. Counselors, are there questions, comments, or motions regarding the consent docket?
Motion to approve the consent docket.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the consent docket. Please vote. With a vote of 4-0, the consent docket is approved. I don't have anyone signed up for public speaking on agenda items not on for public hearing, so that takes us to 7 items on public hearing, which we'll start with 7A, receive public comment regarding a request for a specific use permit by Cyborg Farms LLC for a medical marijuana growing facility located at the property addressed as 3820 North Land Run Drive. This is CC-19-28. Mr. Dorman, did we have good notice on this item? Yes, sir. Mr. McNichol.
Well, I would note that this is the first one of these that we have actually had at the meeting, and Assistant City Manager Dennison will provide that report.
Good evening. Thank you. As the title indicated, we have a medical marijuana commercial grow facility located on Land Run, close to the airport, if you're not familiar with where Land Run Drive is. This is an area map. The entire area of Land Run Drive, it is part of the light industrial park. So it's all zoned IL for industrial light. The hatched area is the piece of the property. The property is larger. Both the building to the north and the hatched area building are on the same piece of property. So the grow facility is going in the southern building. And this is a street view looking directly into the building where the grow facility will be located. As Mr. McNichol indicated, this is the first grow facility that we have had come through for approval with the City of Stillwater. And as like all of the other medical marijuana facilities, the specific use permit is required. Be happy to answer any questions that you may have now.
Counselors? Thank you, Paula.
Yes.
At this time, I'll open the public hearing, and we have no one signed up to speak, so I will close the public hearing. Let's just do that. That's fun. Paula, please tell us about the Planning Commission's recommendations.
The Planning Commission does recommend approval with a unanimous vote for this grow facility.
Thank you very much. Counselors, questions, comments, or motions?
Motion to approve the property on 3820 North Land Run Drive. Specific use permit.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve item A on the public hearing docket. Please vote. With a vote of 3-1, the item is approved. That takes us to 7B, receive public comment regarding a request for a specific use permit for a medical marijuana dispensary at 114 West 8th Avenue. This is CC-19-27. Mr. Dorman, did we have good notice on this item?
Yes, sir.
Ms. Dennison.
Yes, thank you. This is a medical marijuana dispensary request. The property is located in the downtown area of Stillwater. Main Street is the north-south street. that you can barely see my arrow running up and down. The east-west street is 8th. The hatched area is at the intersection of the alley of this block and 8th Street. And this is a view from the street, the old American Red Cross building, is where this dispensary is proposed to go into. Again, be happy to answer any questions.
I will open this public hearing, and there's no one signed to speak, so I'll close it and ask for Planning Commission recommendations.
Planning Commission also recommends approval with a unanimous vote for this dispensary.
Thank you, Paula. Counselors?
Motion to approve the specific use permit at 114 West 8th Avenue.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the item. Please vote. With a vote of 3-1, that item is approved.
Thank you.
Thank you, Paula. That takes us down to item 7C. We received a memo today requesting that item be removed at the request of the applicant, correct? Can you enlighten us a bit on what the effect of their withdrawing that application is? Does that mean it's dead? Does that mean they can bring it back some other time? What exactly does that mean?
Since the application was withdrawn prior to the public hearing for it being opened this evening, they will be able to bring back this request or any similar request. They do not have the moratorium, the 12-month moratorium applied to them. So they can bring it back at any time that they so desire.
Okay, would it have to go back through Planning Commission?
Would have to go back to Planning Commission, yes, because their withdrawal means that this specific application is no longer valid.
Okay. Thank you, Paula.
Yes.
Do we need a vote on accepting the withdrawal, or is there just a?
Well, since the item's withdrawn, there's actually no action to be taken at this point.
Okay. So item C is withdrawn from the agenda. We appreciate those of you who are here to talk about that.
And we appreciate
Maybe
the
you'll get
emails.
another? Yes, got plenty of emails and comments on that. Okay, that takes us to item 8A, ordinances on first reading. Ordinance number 3432. An ordinance amending Chapter 33, Parks, Events, and Recreation by adding new Section 33-15, Camping Prohibited, Exceptions, and providing for severability. Mr. Dorman.
I'll go ahead and start. Basically, this is just a little bit of housekeeping. Our current ordinances only prohibit camping at Lake McMurtry without a permit. This would add all of the other park facilities and allow camping at Couch Park with a permit, provided that meets city manager approval. I mean, there's not much to it, so I don't know if Norman's got anything he wants to add. I mean, this was a request that came through from the manager's office with regard to some issues that they've had at some of the park facilities.
We have had some long-term guests that have not been the neatest people ever in some of the parks and along Kamioka Trail, and this gives us a method to move them on.
Were we under the impression that you required a permit to camp in a public park, or has that not been the case to this point?
There was an ordinance revisions a couple of years ago that we thought cured this, and it did not. So the request actually came through the police department because of repeated visits to individual places.
Okay.
And the thing that he mentions is the trespassing ordinance that we had passed, and basically that would require us to go out and post everything, and we figured there were enough signs in town as there was, so that probably wasn't the smartest mechanism. We've looked at some other options, like maybe creating hours for the parks, but there's just logistical problems. So we think this might be probably the best solution, given not a lot of great options.
Well, would there be signs posted that say no camping except with permit, or are we just gonna?
At entryways, but
Okay.
beyond that, we wouldn't have to put up no trespassing signs and things like that.
Okay. Counselors, questions or comments?
Motion to advance ordinance 3432 to second reading.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to advance the ordinance to second reading. Please vote. With a vote of 4-0, ordinance 3432 is advanced to second reading. Item 9, reports from officers and boards. Mr. Dorman.
A number of items tonight, sir. Request executive session pursuant to 25 OS subsection 307B2 to discuss labor negotiations with Fraternal Order of Police Lodge number 102 and International Association of Firefighters Local number 2095. Request an executive session pursuant to 25 OS subsection 307B4 for confidential communication concerning a pending investigation, claim, or action involving ATEC paving. It is my opinion the disclosure of this matter will seriously impair the ability of the City Council to process this claim or conduct or a pending investigation, litigation, or proceeding in the public interest.
Thank you, Mr. Dorman. Mr. McNichol.
Thank you, Mayor. 2 items. One may have been assigned me as based on my last name. I don't know. St. Patrick's Day is coming up this weekend. Did you know that around 10 to 14.9% of Payne County residents have Irish ancestry? You can find this statistic and all other kinds of U.S. Census data online at census.gov. City of Stillwater is working in tandem with other county communities to ensure that every resident of Payne County gets counted in the 2020 census. That's very important to us, to get everybody counted. Finally, the latest episode of the FYI Stillwater podcast is now live. In this episode, we learn about the Public Works Department's role in Stillwater and how they keep the city running smoothly. You can listen and subscribe to FYI Stillwater on Podbean, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify.
Thank you, Mr. McNichol. Councilor Zanotti.
I do have something. Look for Public Works in the College Garden area over spring break. Crews will be replacing 30 feet of 30-inch stormwater drain pipe that has a partial obstacle. The goal is to reduce flooding in this area. The problem is under a parking lot, so residents should not see any road closings. It's hard to believe we're talking spring break next week.
Thank you, Councilor Zanotti. Councilor Wedlake.
Sir, the City of Stillwater is looking for volunteers to help glue decals onto storm drains Saturday, April 13th as part of the Stormwater Management Program. This is a great opportunity to help keep waterways clean and earn volunteer hours in the meantime. If you would like more information on this, go to stillwater.org/news. It's all posted there.
Thank you, sir. Councilor Jaloski.
Yes, Sunday morning at 2 a.m., our clocks sprang forward 1 hour for daylight savings. In addition to remembering to change your clocks, this is a great time to change your batteries in your smoke alarms, weather radios, and carbon monoxide detectors. It's a great idea.
Good reminder.
Yeah.
I have this week's city statistic. Planning, mapping, and zoning are just a few things that the Development Services Office does for the community. In fiscal year 2018, Development Services issued 2,288 permits to local businesses, organizations, and residents. We just issued 2 more tonight, right? Thank you for the work you do in Development Services. All right, that takes us down to item 11. Appointments on the Public Housing Authority. We have a vacancy for one of the seats on the Public Housing Authority. We have an available application from Debbie Tiger. She is the only applicant at this time for that position, so I will nominate Debbie Tiger for a seat on the Public Housing Authority Board.
Second.
We have a nomination and a second. Please vote. With a vote of 4-0, Debbie Tiger is appointed to the Public Housing Authority Board. Thank you very much for your willingness to serve. Okay, at this time, I will recess the City Council meeting, and we will move over to the Stillwater Utilities Authority meeting for March 11, 2019. I'll call this meeting to order. Trustees, I'll ask for comments, questions, or motions on the consent docket.
Motion to approve the consent docket.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the consent docket. Please vote.
There we go.
There it is.
I had to move my finger away, that was why.
With a vote of 4-0, the consent docket is approved. Under general orders, item A, request for approval of Block 34 overhead electrical service removal project, SUA-19-06. Mr. McNichol?
Lauren Smith will have that report, our Stillwater Electric Director.
Good evening, trustees. Lauren Smith, Electric Utility Director. The Block 34 Board has requested that we remove the overhead electrical service on Block 34 so they can begin cleaning off the site and preparing for future structures and things that are there. Our wonderful engineering department, sitting behind me, a part of them, have put together some great plans here to do that. It really felt like it would be good to do the project in two phases. First, starting with, and I'll kind of go through the map plan here, and that is to install an underground line here to tie into this one so that we can then remove the first side of this overhead on the Block 34 site. There is an event on the 6th of April that they have asked that we not be doing any construction at that time, and then after that I think it's pretty clear. And so that kind of brought on the first two phases, and that's where this line here would remain energized so that we could power whatever they're going to be using the block for there. And so a couple other things you'll notice when we start pulling power off the block is Vernon's got a temporary line coming in here so that we can power the food trucks temporarily until we can get to phase 2, where this line will all be undergrounded and pedestals will be installed, nice looking pedestals for the food trucks to hook up, and basically the food trucks would line up and down Duncan this way. So that's phase 1, and then phase 2 really kind of finishes it off with the removal of this existing overhead line here, an extension of an underground line here, and then a couple blocks over here, an extension of 3-phase overhead to connect all this back together so that we can maintain our redundancy and reliability in the area. So it's a pretty simple project, but it does take time to do all this, so we're expecting about 4 to 6 weeks per phase. Depending on weather, it could speed up, it could slow down, just depending on how all that goes. There is a cost associated with phase 1 and phase 2. It's approximately estimated with just equipment and materials only to be about $79,000, $80,000. So we're asking for about $90,000 just to make sure that we can have enough to complete the job on time and all that. So with that, I have a recommendation, but I can also answer questions, or Vernon can certainly provide any if I can't.
Thank you, Lauren.
Lauren, is this type work that what would happen if any type of development was happening on Block 34? I know there's been a lot of talk about city money being spent, but I just want to clarify that if there was anything happening on Block 34, regardless of what type of development, this would need to be done.
Yes, and the way I understand it, if a developer was coming in here and doing this, we would be charging the developer all this money to move all this electric. And so not only would we be charging them equipment and materials, labor costs as well. So.
You said 4 to 6 weeks per phase?
Approximately.
And so when you mentioned the event on the 6th, would you delay the start of phase 1, or would you start off the block a little bit on some of that stuff?
That's what we're recommending, because time has moved on here, so this is just a couple weeks down the road.
Yeah.
They have asked that there not be any construction on the block whenever they're having their activity, so we're trying to honor that. We could certainly get started earlier, but we want to honor whatever's going on there, don't want to get in anybody's way.
Okay.
So what's the start date then, Lauren?
The start date, potentially the 7th of April. Yeah, I think that would be best.
I think this is a great opportunity for us to invest in this block and this resource for the city. Just kind of expands the value of the block as a whole, I think, to do this.
Absolutely. Lauren, thank you, and thank you to your
Yes, thank you,
colleagues.
Vernon. And I have a recommendation here if you'd like me to read it.
please.
Okay, it is recommended that the trustees approve the Block 34 overhead electric service removal project and authorize expenditures from the electric RSF up to $90,000.
Thank you. Trustees, further discussion or motions?
Motion to approve the Block 34 overhead electric service removal project and authorize expenditures.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to accept the staff recommendation on this project. Please vote. With a vote of 4-0, that project is approved. That takes us down to reports from officers and boards. Mr. Dorman.
Nothing to report, sir.
Mr. McNichol.
No report, sir.
Trustees, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adjourn the Stillwater Utilities Authority meeting. Please vote. With a vote of 4-0, the Stillwater Utilities Authority meeting is adjourned. I will now reconvene the Stillwater City Council meeting at item 12, executive session. Is there a motion to enter executive session?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to enter executive session as Stillwater City Council. Please vote. With a vote of 4-0, we'll now enter executive session. Thank you all.